Khao Yai National Park in Thailand. It all began in a forest just like this. A species of wild bird lived long ago in the jungles and dry forests of Southeast Asia. These birds inhabited a huge area stretching from the foothills of the Himalayas as far north as China and as far south as Indonesia. Far from humans, the chicken's ancestors lived in total freedom. About 10,000 years ago, the destiny of these birds changed. As they got closer to humans, they gradually became less wild. The process of domestication had begun. Today, descendants of these birds still roam the forest. Red jungle fowl. Khao Yai National Park is home to a group of wild jungle fowl. In the 800 square miles of impenetrable jungle, the red jungle fowl keep their distance. They have retained their fierce distrust of humans. While they enjoy complete freedom, they don't have the benefit of human protection, and predators are all around. This Siamese crocodile wouldn't turn his nose up at a jungle fowl for lunch. Fortunately, red jungle fowl are much better at flying than domestic chickens. Well out of reach, 30 feet above the river, the jungle fowl waits patiently in its tree until the danger passes. For farmers who live on the edge of the park, jungle fowl are a ghostly presence. Though rarely seen, they haunt the local hen houses. In Banja Chan's farm, they have even left behind some evidence of their visits.
Yes, I've already seen red jungle fowl come here. But you don't get a good look at them. They're very wary. As soon as I come out, they disappear. But I'm sure that the jungle fowl have reproduced with my chickens because I had a rooster that crowed in a different way from the others. I'm sure that my chickens are mixed with wild chickens.
In the past, these farmers' ancestors must also have been visited by wild jungle fowl. And perhaps it was a young girl, like Banja Chan's daughter, who took in a wandering chick and made chickens part of human history. Professor Eben Gehring, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Michigan, has spent years working on the mechanics of evolution in the domestication of chickens. Using a parabolic microphone, he records domestic roosters crowing in the Thai countryside. Then he compares them to the crows of red jungle fowl. But to find the wild fowl, the biologist has an uphill battle. This acoustic study shows that there is a considerable difference between red jungle fowl and domestic chickens, a difference that is directly linked to the domestication process.
Domesticated chicken produces a call that we all know from backyard farms, which is the red jungle fowl sings crows at a higher pitch, and it has a shorter last syllable, so it sounds like. You can hear some in the background too. What that suggests to us is that when humans domesticated the the ancestor of both the jungle fowl and our domesticated birds. They produced radical changes in the sounds that these birds make. And if we compare the red jungle fowl with the chicken, then that gives us an opportunity to understand where all of this vocal diversity that we hear in domesticated chickens originated from.
For the next stage of his study, Professor Gehring needs to find a way of observing the red jungle fowl. To get a good look, he'll need to blend in. After waiting for hours, a flock of fowl finally appears. Though the male jungle fowl looks very similar to their domesticated cousins, the hens are much darker, providing vital camouflage in the forest undergrowth. But among the thousands of forest-dwelling bird species, why did humans decide to domesticate this particular bird?
There are many features of the red jungle fowl that may have been important in domestication. An ability to adapt to different types of environment, an ability to very easily convert excess resources into growth and reproduction. Also, males in this species are extremely aggressive. The best available evidence from archaeology and anthropology suggests that that the original domestication of the chicken may not have been for food production, but actually for sport fighting and fortune telling.
The ability to adapt, their high metabolism, but above all their fighting skills and the fortune-telling innards, these attributes would confirm the destiny of this bird. Removed from their forests, the jungle fowl would become chickens, the first birds domesticated by mankind. Leaving their original home in Asia, domesticated chickens set out to conquer the world. The first wave of migrants headed east. Polynesians took them on board their pirogues. From island to island, they made their way across the Pacific Ocean until they reached Easter Island about 1,000 years ago. Some genetic studies even claim that chickens reached America 300 years before Christopher Columbus. The second wave headed west. Taking advantage of emerging trade routes, chickens invaded the Middle East. About 3,000 years ago, they reached Egypt. Then, about 500 years later, they arrived in Europe. In a space of a few thousand years, humans had introduced their trusty chickens to the four corners of the globe. And in the last decades, the fearless fowl even staked a claim to one of the few territories that remain chicken-free, the biggest city in the United States, New York. In the borough of Queens, chickens have established a new outpost in the Brooklyn Grange Farm, an acre of rooftop farm. A huge oasis of green in the middle of the urban jungle. 75 feet above Northern Boulevard, this agricultural island produces 20 tons of fruit and vegetables every year. Fresh produce that will head to local markets and fine restaurants around New York. The founders of the farm also introduced 12 chickens. A dozen poultry pioneers faced with the challenge of an urban lifestyle. Bradley Fleming is the manager of this unusual farm. Although he came from a traditional farm in the country, Bradley has proved that it's also possible to farm in the biggest city in the U.S.
It's a farm and it's on a roof, big industrial building, and we have another site in Brooklyn that's an acre and a half about, so 2.5 acres total on rooftop space, which is not a lot of ground space in the city, so figured look up and do it on the roof.
As well as supervising agricultural production and managing volunteers, Bradley is also in charge of the chickens. And with a mere 10 inches of soil on the farm, the poultry play an important role.
So we have about a dozen chicks at each farm, all hens, no roosters, and we eat their eggs, which are delicious, good to have around. We sell a few at market. We do use their manure and the compost, and it's good, provides good nitrogen for the soil. It's not a huge input into the farm, but every little bit helps.
In keeping with their urban setting, the Brooklyn Grange chickens are assertive individuals. Tension between the hens can run high, and feeding time brings out the worst. In all chicken coops, especially when there is no rooster, access to food is directly related to a hen's dominance. And right at the bottom of the hierarchy is Wiggy. Her poor status can be seen clearly from the state of her plumage. The front-runners of the flock, Barbara and Grandma, systematically prevent her from getting near the food. Their constant hen-picking has resulted in Wiggy losing all the feathers from her shoulders. This well-named pecking order is one of the characteristics of domestic chickens. And sometimes, to avoid a complicated situation, it's best to fly the coop.
For them, just hanging out in their coop, it's good days when they get to get out and run around and stretch their legs. I always love letting them do that. We had one that flew over the edge, and she made it. She didn't die. But she got away. We didn't catch her, and I heard a few stories about her. People would come and say they saw her around the neighborhood, so I'm sure somebody took her in.
For the last 10 years, chickens have been staking their claim in urban farms around the world. Paris, Tokyo, Los Angeles, Shanghai, all the big cities now lie within their reach. This trend may result in chickens becoming a distinct urban species. Over the last 10,000 years of global domination, chickens have undergone major physical changes. Farmers use selective breeding in order to manipulate the chicken's characteristics. Jean-Claude Periquet is one such breeder. In his farm-cum-laboratory, he has been changing the shape of chickens over the last 50 years. He specializes in creating miniature or bantam versions of French breeds. So far, he's created bantam versions of 6 major French breeds, covering a broad range of styles and shades. But his masterpiece is an entirely new French breed that he has created from scratch, the Meusienne, available in both large and small.